per game in that time. Longo's offense uses the quarterback in the run game a bunch, but also has featured a prolific passing attack. The news comes today after Jim Leonard announced he would not be a part of Fickell's staff after the bowl game. Leonard issued a statement on social media last night that said he intends to stay on until after the Guaranteed Rate Bowl, but will not be a part of the staff in 2023. Fickell said discussions with Leonard were positive, but they determined in the end him moving on was the best for all involved. Meanwhile, Badgers have seen a host of players ahead of the transfer portal in recent days, including quarterback Graham Mertz. They have also targeted several players they could bring to Madison, though Fickell says they have to be smart in that regard. One guy Fickell isn't losing, running back Braylon Allen. He announced yesterday he's staying at Wisconsin for his junior season. Turning to the Packers, they're getting the week off. They'll return the following Monday night when they host the Rams at Lambeau Field.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
When a company only does business in Wisconsin, that's Wisconsin Strong. Rural Mutual provides all lines of insurance, including commercial, farm, home, and auto. And your premiums stay right here to keep Wisconsin strong. Local agents, local underwriters, local claims adjusters.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Well, the Bucs are back in action tonight as Sacramento comes to town. Milwaukee's found its footing of late, winning 5 of their last 6 games. Kings have won 3 straight coming in. Tip at 5-star Forum is set for 7. And Wisconsin 1-0 in Big Ten play after the win against Maryland last night. They'll travel to Iowa this Sunday. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil.
Are you ready for some football? He talks green and gold.
Look at the 8. Go.
This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels.
Good evening. We are glad to have you. We are broadcasting live. We are at Angry Brothers Pub. We are at the Entertainment Center, if you want to call it that. We are down here this evening. Thank you very much. And enjoying ourselves. Myself, Mike Clemens alongside. It's very rare that I get a chance to get you for an entire couple of hours on the program, Mike. But glad to have you here, man. It's a bye week. That's why.
I don't know why. It's just been kind of some of the schedules have changed. The Packers on Wednesdays go really late.
Yeah.
And as you know, they have Tuesdays off, and then we drive up on Wednesday morning, and we go Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, get out of there Friday afternoon. We're locked out pretty much on Saturdays. I still have access to my office in the media area there on Saturdays, right up to about 6 o'clock. Then on Saturday night, the night before a game, then things get a little crazy, and they start locking down for security and all,
right.
and all that.
Right.
So unless I want to spend the night there, sleeping on the floor of the office,
right,
it's time to get out. But it's been busy, and it's been an interesting season. Somebody asked me, "Hey, how's it going?" I go, we got so tired of that worrying about whether or not we were going to lose home field advantage. This mathematically eliminated,
it's a change of pace.
Yeah, mathematically still viable. That's a whole new storyline.
It's a change of pace.
Hanging by our fingernails.
It's we were in Chicago over the weekend, and they showed spunk. They came back. They didn't want to lose to the Bears. I think the rivalry maybe meant more than anything, but the fact that they are mathematically alive, I think we all know that this is not performance-wise a very good football team. We spent the whole day today talking about, Jim Leonard's leaving Wisconsin. Should he be the next defensive coordinator of the Green Bay Packers? I listened to what Brian Gutekunst had to say on Monday about, the decision. I know he was asked numerous times. It was Ryan Wood, I think, of the Green Bay Press-Gazette. We were talking about Bill Huber earlier today about, would you fire, are you the guy to let go of Joe Barry? And he says, well, we support whatever Matt wants to do. It's Matt Lafleur's decision. Matt consults us, but, we support whatever Matt wants to do in this and that. It was, to me, at first, it was like, oh, man, he didn't want any part of that. And then I thought, if you're going to keep confidence in Matt Lafleur, this is a great way to do it, because he's saying it's not our decision, it's Matt. So when Matt says, Joe, you can't come back, it gives fans the reason to go back to saying, Matt Lafleur, a couple seasons, he made that move, man. Even though it was his buddy, he made that move. I think it's going to be collaboratively to say, this, we can't leave it like this. But give me your thoughts on the Joe Barry defense and Gutekunst's comments and Matt Lafleur saying, I can't believe you guys are talking to me about this after a game, that type of thing, which I thought was a completely ignorant comment. But all of this that's transpired in the way the defense is played.
Well, first of all, excellent visit with Bill Huber, one of the hardest working guys in our media staff who writes for Sports Illustrated now. everybody should follow Bill because he sets up his lifestyle so that he can call those scouts, call those high school coaches, do all the background digging like that. Sometimes we share that information. Says he had some great viewpoints today. In terms of where the defense is at, and I'll get into this later on tonight, I think you've seen a roller coaster of emotion because I've watched that Bears game again, and I went back and watched the last couple of others, and these people are just not flying around. There's a lot of well-paid guys on that defense now, and they are clocking it. And you know, Aaron Rodgers came up with this new term where he called it independent contractor.
Yeah, where
he suggested that there are some guys that are, in fact, getting the paycheck, and they're passing all the quizzes. You know,
right?
They do come prepared, but they're making business decisions out there in the field. One case is Darnell Savage.
Yeah,
like we know you've been hurt and have lost 4 weeks with various shoulder, neck injuries, this kind of thing, but dude, you have said Olay on some big plays,
right?
Too many times. And this could cost you your job because Rudy Ford off the street would like you. Matter of fact, he has your job right now.
Yeah.
While you've got this, foot and ankle injury. So I see problems with scheme. I see problems with game planning. I see problems with motivating. I see problems with guys. I saw a Packers defense that really didn't seem interested in the effort it takes to fly around and put your body on the line until the offense got it to 19-17 got to within 2 points.
Right.
That's when they woke up and said, okay, we got a chance. All right. And they pulled up their chin straps and they started flying around and you saw this volley of plays.
Right.
Because up until then, I can show you 2 or 3 first downs. I can show you the David Montgomery touchdown. It's just ridiculous the amount of patty cake effort. And the week before, when you lost the game, the head coach came out right after the game, and his guys upstairs said, yes, looking at it live, we charted down maybe as many as 15 missed tackles.
Yeah. And then he went up. It was like 20, then 22.
On Monday, he said 20. Then on Wednesday, after one full review and the complete charts of the grades, he threw that out there as 22 missed tackles. Now, he won the game Sunday in Chicago, so he's not throwing that out there. So, you leave that up to Pro Football Focus, or if you so desire to take a yellow pad and chart all these plays, yourself. But there's an effort thing missing there. And you start looking at a group of guys that were of a certain class, and, man, they put it out there for 2 or 3 years, and you got to 13 wins. And now you see this offense that was, off and missing some veteran offensive linemen and a quarterback who is now back with the team. It's not he's holding out. He just somehow was able to just not show up until the one mandatory mini camp and a wide receiver and all that. And then you get into training camp and it's not a very good offense. And meanwhile, everyone's excited about what you got on paper. And and now we got Jair back, and they just made him the highest paid cornerback in the National Football League. That must mean he's just going to have a terrific year. And he's not. He's out there freelancing, Bill.
Yeah.
And
he's talked about that too.
And Lafleur is trying to pull all this stuff back in together. And at the same, and he's safe. He's fine. I got people on social media saying, fire LaFlunk. They're name calling him.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're not paying attention. He's got a 672 winning percentage. Matt LaFleur's not going anywhere for another year or two. He's fine. But there's all kinds of things where he needs to improve as a head coach. But for right now, he's got a bunch of loose ends, and they're not on the same page. There's Rich Bisaccia has been great. Joe Barry doesn't know what to do in this situation, in this crisis. He can give you X's and O's, and he can help you prep. But in terms of seemingly to motivate these guys or
challenge them
or work one against the other, that kind of stuff, he's, he's an NFL survivor.
Yeah.
Not an NFL, I'm leading you to the promised land guy.
Right. I mean, I think we all would agree that Joe Barry is 99.9% foot out the door by the time the season comes to an end. Then the next question is a lot of names being kicked around. You hear a lot about Zimmer. You hear a lot about Fangio. You're getting some food. I'm telling you right now. Down here, this is because
Awesome.
Angry Brothers Pub is known for being the it was always the bowling alley with a bar attached to it, and not anymore, man. Now it's a bar, it's a restaurant, it's a catering hall, it's an entertainment center. They've got new golf simulators here, like Top Golf. They have got volleyball courts in the back. They built this whole new patio outside. Now it's a restaurant with a bowling alley attached to it. It's fantastic. And I ate
talking to the staff too, but nice staff here too.
Yeah,
well.
I ate that a little bit earlier today, and I needed to change my pants before the show. It was fantastic. So my question, you know what? For those that are watching at home, hang on a second. For those that are watching at home,
there you go.
There you go. Nice.
Take a look at it now because it's not going to be around.
Don't wear good under.
No, don't wear
good. There could
good
be some seepage and stuff.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Ben Kenny producing the show. So, first and foremost, the talk today was about Jim Leonard. He's not coming back. He made that announcement. Do the Packers go back after him?
I don't think they should.
Because?
First of all, I thought of all the, managerial strategic moves that Matt Lafleur has made. Boy, did he get set up to look stupid when he's meeting with Jim Leonard. He's basically offering him his job. He's trying to move on from Mike Pettin. And maybe he might have had a coach or two, like a Mike Smith or something, that said, well, how about considering me? And then Jim Leonard publicly comes out and says, no, I'm staying with the Badgers.
Right.
And, the circle in Madison has got Jim Leonard's wife telling folks, we love it here. Jim loves the university and he loves working with the kids, and we love our home, and we're raising kids here. And we've done our fair share of moving as a football family while he was with the Jets as a player and all that. And so, we think that we're going to be here working alongside Paul Chris for the next 10 years. Well, look how long that lasted. Right? Things have greatly changed. I don't know why you want to bring in Jim Leonard. Long time, I don't know Jim. I've only been around him once or twice, I think, when me and Joe, one of your producers, we covered a couple of Badger games.
Yeah.
So I don't really have I'm not an expert on this guy. I don't think that for where the Packers are and with Aaron Rodgers and all this, that now is the time to hire a first-time NFL defensive coordinator. Now is not the time for that. Or a guy who has proven as a linebackers coach or an assistant defensive coordinator, or something, that he is now ready for that next shot at defensive coordinator, much like the resume that Matt LaFleur has built, to get where he has in 10 or 11 years in the league. So there was this excitement about Leonard at the time, I guess, but it's college and the NFL's are two totally different kinds of jobs.
Right.
And trying to fix the problems with that defense. Could he be a rah-rah guy with those NFL players like he's been with the Badgers?
That's a great question. Then you go to the opposite end of the spectrum. Vic Fangio's available. Mike Zimmer's available. Both have had success as defensive coordinators. Fangio more so
could
than
that
anything.
be the Wade Phillips factor? Like when Kubiak was there with the Broncos and he had an aging Peyton Manning, and they lost the first time to that Seattle defense, and they came back and they sort of reconfigured thing. And of all the teams and all the years that Wade Phillips grew up with his dad with the Oilers and the head coach for the Cowboys, and he kind of got a shaft job there from Jerry Jones. The time that he finally gets to hoist one of those things is the defensive coordinator of the Denver Broncos.
Right.
And I get to stand there right there with him and tell him, how excited Ted Thompson would be for him, because Ted was a friend of that family. Could Fangio be one of those guys? Maybe. I know that Rodgers would be excited. Yeah. I know that a Fangio hire, or Zim. Yeah. And that's why those names are out there, because Rodgers has talked about those guys so much.
Zimmer was a guy that schemed against Rodgers pretty well.
Both in Cincinnati and with the Vikings.
Right.
And there's nothing better than to get that little revenge thing working for you.
Yeah.
Like, oh, really, Vikings?
Right.
Let me show you how that works out.
Right.
But at the same time, look what Zim did with that Vikings team. I mean, he wore those guys out.
Yeah.
Just he wore, and I don't know if his style would actually conflict with the way Lafleur,
Right.
I mean, Rodgers calls him Captain Blood, but it's a happy camper operation up there. One of the things about that Lafleur does is, I was talking to one of their front office people, and we're actually standing in their locker room, and I'm looking at the schedule, and I'm looking at all these weird times. Like, okay, the meeting starts at 11:05, and then the next one starts at they're on the 5s,
Yeah.
Like, who that? I said, why can't they be at 11, 11:30? Because the players are constantly looking at the schedule. And so why is it so tight? Do you really have 25-minute meetings?
Yeah.
Really? And he said, CBA, and he wants to get these guys out of here. So basically, Lafleur tries to make this thing as fast-paced as he can, make sure he gets everything done that he can, but he's not expecting these players to be there 7, 8 o'clock at night grinding.
Right.
I mean, he's trying to install and get that, and now you go do some more of this on your own. The coaches will be here 18 hours a day, but that's the trade-off that he makes with these guys. You got to give me 110% in the meetings and throughout the day and at practice, of course, and what you do in the weight room, and that you got to report to the trainer. And when the trainer says, "Do this tonight, do this X amount, do these exercises tonight," that you do that.
Right.
You don't just blow it off there and watch TV for 12 hours like maybe I would, but but you have to check all those boxes off. And so that's the deal that he has with them. I don't know if a Zimmer kind of a guy conflicts with the way Lafleur treats players right now.
We're going to talk about that when we come back. We are broadcasting live. We're here at Angry Brothers Pub. We're in Racine, Wisconsin. Beautiful place. They've expanded it. The expansion is amazing. The golf simulators are amazing, but even more so amazing.
Lots of screens.
Is the fact that the food has now just gone through the roof. It's like a fine dining restaurant with a bowling alley next to it. It's fantastic. And by the time we come back, Mike will be in a coma after eating the steak and the potatoes and everything that he has
I'll
over
be back
here.
in a half hour.
We are brought to you by our friends at Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the Bill Michaels Sports Talk Network. Stick around. We got a lot more of the Bill Michaels Huddle live at Angry Brothers Pub in Racine right after this.
This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Brothers Pub. It is the Bill Michaels Huddle, and we're hanging out tonight here, brought to you by our friends at Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the Bill Michaels Sports Talk Network. Mike Clemens on hand tonight here as well. And, Mike, we were talking about Matt Lafleur and the possibility of a hire at the defensive coordinator position before we went to break. One of the things you said is Matt's not the conflictual guy. He's the guy that's making sure that everybody's happy. I don't want to say soft, but he's not a hard, wear you out, old school kind of guy where you're going to go run gassers all day until you get sick. But Matt LaFleur, his first year.
Now, he wasted no time, along with Gutekunst, that when Kylan Hill, a returner and a low draft pick from last year, a number 3 running back, was doing a great job returning kicks, and then he has this horrific collision with a Arizona Cardinals defender in the game out in Arizona on a kick return. And they both go out with like ACLs. And now Kylan's finally coming back this fall from the ACL. And just as he gets to be ready about activated, they release him because of his effort in the last month or two. He wasn't mentally ready. And he was also causing some problems,
right?
Within the running backs room about wanting to get his reps and that kind of thing and not really playing nice. They wasted no time to send a message to the locker room and also to that particular player and pretty much publicly to say, yeah, that's not going to be tolerated. Next.
Right.
So he's got a trigger.
I go back to when Matt LaFleur took over. The argument was Rodgers held onto the ball too much. He was too focused on one guy. He was looking too much rather than just running the play. And you and I noted there was one play. Rodgers was deep in his own territory, rolled out to his right, was looking at Devontae, looking. There was other guys that were open underneath, and he was focused on Devontae. He ends up throwing the ball out of bounds. And LaFleur, it was a third down play. He comes off the field. LaFleur comes running down the field. Running down the sideline. And Rodgers yells at him, "What did you want me to do?" And he looked at him, and they caught him on camera saying, "Throw the effing ball." And it was a moment in which I said, damn, this guy's got moxie.
Yeah.
That was a great moment. Haven't seen it since. It has basically been Aaron Rodgers yelling at him looking lost, throwing his hands in the air, whatever. It has not been the same since that season.
Well, there was also a joke where I think it was on the 2-point conversion call to Mercedes Lewis, but LaFleur came out. He had 4 or 5 plays for him. He says, all right, let's run this. And when Aaron said, yeah, okay. Oh, great. And he didn't talk about the other ones. Like,
right.
Hey, I got him to decide on something. We're sticking with that.
Right.
And then he made that known. He made that public in the press conference.
Yeah.
So, LaFleur is saying, yeah, this guy's a handful. But I want to tell you something that Brian Gutekunst said in his press conference. By the way, let's talk about that moment again. So Aaron Rodgers is going through his press conference, and he's talking about the things that happened in the Bears games, and Jalen Johnson, is a pretty good defensive back, a third year there with the Bears, and he's talking about how they changed their coverages and all that. Then he gets the question, hey, about that Christian Watson? Here, this guy is performing again. That speed is just unbelievable with what he did on the end run and a couple of the catches that he made for you, drawing the pass interference. Christian Watson was the difference maker in that win. Which, from what you've seen, does that entice you to want to come back next year for sure, and play your 19th season? Aaron Rodgers replies, yeah, well, Christian's this and this, that, and, and we although the last month has been great, looking forward to seeing more, but yeah, I could see that happen. Of course, me coming back is a mutual decision. Like, oh God.
Yeah, here we go.
Oh my God!
What
is that?
Gutekunst made it known we want him back.
Well, no. So here's what happened. Aaron Rodgers says that. What time did the game get over? About 3. So it's about 4:30. 9 o'clock. Bing! I get this email. Brian Gutekunst will address the media tomorrow.
Right.
Now, and we still haven't had a chance to kind of talk through the back channel, saying, why did he pick this time? Is it because we got a bye and he's helping
Yeah.
us out and we got something more to talk about? Is it because, they had a nice win, an historic win? And he didn't make himself available during the trade period like many other general managers do. And maybe he's breaking out of the Ted Thompson mold a little bit to say, I'll talk to you guys at Combine. I'll talk to you around the draft. I'll talk to you at the NFL meetings. I'll talk to you during training camp. But when they kick off the ball in September, I ain't talking to you guys until the end of season press conference.
Right.
And I'll say hi to you in the cafeteria, and just a little, touch and go or something. But really, there's no official press conferences. There's no official word from him or usually even Mark Murphy through the entire season. They focus on the head coach, and they really want to put the spotlight on the players during the season. That's who they want to showcase when they're actually into the season. That's just the way they run things up there. So here he has this press conference Monday afternoon at 4:00. And then one of the great questions was, is it kind of tough to run an operation when, you got a player or quarterback that kind of waffles on decisions?
Right.
And Brian kind of laughed at it. He said, I was taught a long time ago that when you got a quarterback, you do everything you can.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that goes back to the Favre days.
Right.
Like, hey, wait a minute. This is Ron Wolf telling these guys.
Yeah.
Telling Ted, telling a young Brian Gutekunst, we have a quarterback. We're going to do whatever the man wants, okay?
Right.
Keep the quarterback happy.
I find it interesting to the opposite side, to the Aaron Rodgers side, when he first came into the league, maybe his second year, third year, Favre's waffling. And I can't remember if it was just on mic or on mic and off mic in one of our conversations or one of this group conversations. And he wasn't being derogatory towards Brett, but he said, I won't ever do that. I won't waffle.
Rodgers.
I won't do that. I won't be like that.
No.
And now he's exactly,
it's exactly
like that. Exactly like that.
And you know something? It's not just because it's Green Bay or some sort of camera. It's just a fact of life with that position in this league. It's just the way it goes. You could draw a very similar path to what happened to Joe Montana years ago. This story repeats itself quite often.
Mm-hmm. Well, did you read the Andrew Luck piece in ESPN?
No, but
it is fantastic, and he's got a quote in there, and I can't remember the exact quote, but I'm going to paraphrase. He said, "You begin to lose touch with kind of reality. You're living in silos when all that matters is the game. That all that matters is training. That all that matters is the team." He felt so guilty about being hurt; it began to affect him. But he says, you start to live with I'm a God complex because of how you have to be and have to be considered as a quarterback. I'm a God. I'm godlike almost. And you see that in some of these guys that don't remain grounded. They begin to elevate themselves and put themselves on the pedestal because they become almost godlike because of their reverence.
On the other side of the football, we all remember the name Ray Nitschke.
Mm-hmm.
And you think, oh, gorilla, right? Angry man with the full grid face mask who's a linebacker who's out there to kill people.
Yeah.
And could hit people in a league with different rules back then and crush and demolish quarterbacks and, all the way to the Hall of Fame. Ray Nitschke wrote a book almost 50 years ago, actually, about 3 years after he retired, called Mean on Sundays, where he said, I'm a big kitty cat. I mean, I'm kind of scared. I'm scared of this and all that. I had to just flip a switch and tell myself I was the meanest, baddest man on the planet. I had to do that to set myself on that. I became somebody else.
Yeah.
I had to. And the title of the book was Mean on Sundays.
Yeah.
So, here's Ray Nitschke saying, this is what I had to do mentally. I had to find a switch and just put away any of my fears, any of my concerns, any of my considerations for my fellow man. I had to become this animal. And I think any one of those guys as competitors have to find that switch and flip it like that. And Aaron is the same way. Remember, I asked him a question about a year or two ago about where he pushes himself. I asked him questions about, clearly he's constantly been working the last 3 or 4 years on his mental, if he's mentally in shape.
Yeah.
Because I think some of these losses in the playoffs, they just kill him.
Mm-hmm.
They're just killing him. And they're going to talk about him, and he doesn't want the blame to be on him. He saw what happened to Favre throwing the pick against the Giants in the NFC Championship. He's trying to avoid that, and he has spent a lot of time traveling around the world trying to find answers on how he can detach himself and his emotions from that and still get this without it eating him up. He has spent a lot of time doing that, improving himself. And the same thing physically as well, trying to find, new heights and level and following, Tom Brady's path on keeping it together. But you get to a point where you've lost touch. And the first time he put out this thing about, his personal greatness,
mm-hmm.
which, if Baker Mayfield said that, you'd laugh at him. But, Aaron Rodgers, that's his standard saying now. He's even got Lafleur saying it to the team.
Mm-hmm.
This your own personal greatness as a player, and so they start buying into that. But it starts, that stuff gets over the top because you're losing touch with the reality of the situation, right?
Yep. No, I after reading what they're talking about in Indianapolis and what Andrew Luck was going through and what he was talking, he was affecting his relationship with his kids, his family, his girlfriend,
the ankle injury,
yeah,
and all that stuff.
then being hurt and feeling guilty. He said it was overwhelming guilt.
Well, Andrew Luck came to Green Bay, a year or two before he ended up making that surprise announcement, and he single-handedly beat the Packers himself, running like Josh Allen, for first downs and just taking a physical beating. And he's got to get back up and start throw footballs. He was out there just getting the hell beat out of him.
Yep.
And I got to him in the locker room after that. He beat the Packers. It was quite a bit of upset because he had a lot of guys injured around him in that game. And, and he put in so much physically like that. Roethlisberger did that at times, all the hits that he took. And Josh Allen needs to pay attention, to what he's saying, because if he's not careful, he's going to shorten his career by the hits that he's taken at 6'5".
Yep, no doubt about it. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break. We're broadcasting live, Angry Brothers Pub down here in Racine. We're brought to you by Bud Light. How's the food, by the way?
It's outstanding. It's a steak, medium rare. There's all kinds of perfect seasoning on it. The green beans on the bacon. I'm going to put my arm around it just to keep you away from my plate.
Let's do this. We'll take a quick break. We got a lot more coming up right after this.
Let we go.
This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back to the program. We are glad to have you. We are brought to you by our friends at Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the Bill Michaels Sports Talk Network. We're at Angry Brothers Pub. We're down here in Racine, so if you want to come by, say hi, please feel free. Nice crowd here tonight, as you can see on the live stream for those of you watching, and there's quite a few of you watching, as a matter of fact, so we appreciate you hanging out with us this evening. Myself, Mike Clemens here on site as well. We'll talk a little bit more about the want for Jordan Love coming up here in a little bit, but so where the team's at right now, we were talking about Aaron Rodgers. We're talking about a lot of different things when it comes to the offseason, finding himself, getting past a lot of stuff. I think to myself, from everything he said, and I get it, there's some things you have to throw out there about mutual, want and all that kind of stuff. But to me, I think he's coming back. I think if I had to make a bet today, I wouldn't necessarily put my house on it, but I think 90% of me says he's coming back with the Packers next year. There's going to be some decisions to be made. I did find it interesting. Gutekunst pointed out that even though they could save $6 million off the salary, that David Bakhtiari, when he's been able to play, he's David Bakhtiari, and good left tackles don't grow on trees. And so I kind of thought about that for a minute. I thought, boy, if Bach's coming back and they're hinting at that, Rodgers isn't going anywhere. You know what I mean? That's why I believe he's coming back.
Yeah, Aaron likes to have his circle. It's not a very big circle.
Right.
I complimented him the other day on a piece he did now a year ago at this time on James Campen, the long-time offensive line coach. He's been with the organization 25 years. He was Brett Favre's first center, and then all those years. But then he left when the McCarthy regime got cleaned out, right?
Mm-hmm.
So You see him with James Campen at Brett Favre's Hall of Fame, and he's got Campen on one side and Mason Crosby on the other. It's like, cover me because I don't want to sign any autographs. Just help me sneak in here.
Right.
So, Aaron needs these guys around him. He wants to be quiet. He wants to slip in. He doesn't, he needs his little posse. And that includes Mason Crosby, Mercedes Lewis. Now, they can't bring back Mercedes Lewis anymore, can they?
No.
And then that Randall Cobb play. I talked about this at length yesterday on our morning show, up in Madison. Randall Cobb was 0 for 4 on Sunday.
Right.
What is the point?
He has played well this season, far better than I thought he would.
Well, Lafleur threw him out there when he wasn't really sure that Keyshawn Nixon was ready in that situation. And I got to have sure hands.
Right.
Randall, go out there and catch this punt, okay? Just catch the ball. But Randall Cobb, and I said this to you during the game, right? There's not once but twice where there was probably somebody underneath, but there's Rodgers trying to relive great memories of 2011, 2016 right. Down there. And it's Rodgers to Cobb for that touchdown there in that end zone, and he overthrows him twice. There's another time he throws to him as a little safety valve, and Randall drops it. He's just running a little. And then the last time it was that long drive in the fourth quarter that ended up with the field goal to go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it was, I don't know if it was a 3rd and 1 or it was a first down. Maybe I think it was a first down play. But everybody's downfield. Rodgers is looking and looking and looking, and there's Randall Cobb off to his left-hand side, wide open. And Rodgers throws the ball and leads him by about 5 to 10 yards. And then holds up his hands like, well, why didn't you go run down there?
Yeah.
And Cobb's like, I'm standing right here open. There's nobody around me for 30 yards. One of the number 39, Josh Blackwell, was now closing in when he's like, oh, God, look at 18 up ahead of me. I'm going to, I drop back.
And this goes back to Rodgers says, if you see the open territory, go. And just.
Yes, but the fact is the open territory was right there.
Right.
To get me the ball, I'll turn around and
make a play.
Get some yards after the catch. And so instead, Rodgers is like, well, you know our rules. You're supposed to turn around and start heading down. Like, no, I'm wide open right here. Just get me the ball,
right?
While you're under pressure.
Yeah.
And it just shows, if Randall Cobb can't get on the same page with this guy, it's just one play, but it was so bad. And it displayed Aaron Rodgers at his worst with I'm playing all these rules and you got to do this and you got to read it. Just throw the ball to the open man.
Right.
You're the most accurate pass. And that wasn't a thumb throw. That wasn't a bad throw. That was this we're playing games thing, and we're always trying to get more when we can. Just complete the pass. Throw the open guy. Start throwing some checkdowns. And you know what? Joe Montana got his Super Bowl rings throwing checkdowns, and then after they bit on that, then there's Jerry Rice open for the post.
Right. You look at many of the quarterbacks that did it. Tom Brady threw a lot of checkdowns throughout his career, and then finally went deep more than a few times.
And threw over the middle too.
But he also had a tight end that was short hands, which is another area of
or an Edelman,
Edelman. But it's another area of discussion because you got Cobb
But that's a great point. You don't see Brady doing that crap.
No.
Just throw to the open.
Not unless he's got a receiver like Godwin and Evans that are flying down the field and he's got the ability to do it. But no, it's
you don't see Brady making it too complicated.
Right. That I agree with.
So to get to your point, if Bakhtiari comes back, that's one thing that just on a personal relationship he'll turn 40 next year in December. In terms of being the oldest guy in that locker room and trying to make it relatable, that would help if Bakhtiari came back. It's great. He's got these 23-year-old weapons in Christian Watson and
Romeo Doubs, Samari Torre,
blah, blah. Geez, Aaron, the point is we're trying to get you a ring. Okay. Mark Murphy wants a ring before he leaves, and he's got 2 years left. And he's putting his chips on Aaron Rodgers. If I can get Aaron Rodgers a second ring, and if he can get me one, and we can walk out of this place with 2 more. That's one more than Bob got.
One more than Bob got. One more than
Ron got.
Yeah, than Ron, then Ted, then Favre, then everybody.
Yeah.
So out of that group, Lazard?
I don't think he's coming back.
Cobb?
No.
So you're no Watkins. There's no way. So Watkins, Cobb, Lazard. So you're down to,
That's a good point. I don't know. Maybe
because I love
the Lazard decision can be made in the next 4 or 5 weeks. Because I think the number one receiver on this team for first downs is Alan Lazard.
Right.
So he is the kind of the go-to guy on third. Quietly, the go-to guy on third down.
Because Cobb has been the go-to guy when plays break down. He's the guy that's always had that.
Well, has been.
Has been. So, but like what Goody said, I was listening to when he was asked about Sammy Watkins. And look at it in hindsight now as you made him and then he said, well, you never know how a guy who's had success in one place is going to have success in another. What works in one area doesn't necessarily. In other words, this is a train wreck. I can't say it's a train wreck because the guy's still sitting here and we still need him, but it's a train wreck. And yeah, it was a bad. He admitted it without admitting it. And so Watkins won't be back. So in essence,
Julio
Jones blow out
missed
3 of those guys.
6 weeks too. Now he made some nice plays the other night in that wonderful, comfort behind victory for the Buccaneers the other night on Monday Night Football. But he's missed his time as well.
Right.
So and Sammy might still have some flashes coming up here. Sammy did have some big plays in earlier games. I think it was against the Cowboys and all that. Overall, Bill. It's so interesting to me, and spending was a Monday night and much of yesterday going over the last month. They look like a football team when they knew Bill Belichick was coming to town, and they certainly got up for Mike McCarthy coming to town. Whether you played for the guy or not, and most of those guys are gone now, but the vibe was in the building.
Right,
Belichick. McCarthy, Cowboys, prime time,
right.
all that. But these games like the Commanders and the Jets, and these teams are turned out to be pretty good, how they want to sleep in some of these things.
Yeah.
And I think part of that had to be somewhere along the preparation for it, or just the realization as to how tough the Giants were going to play you. How much fight the Giants.
I go back to that discussion with Lafleur was just on edge that week. Right. Getting ready to go to London.
Snippy.
And it did that all just trickle down?
It did.
Did that all just trickle down? It was the beginning of the end. It just started.
The whole overthink about the schedules and all this kind of thing. I mean, he was talking about it since last spring.
Right.
And then he wouldn't talk about it when he got about 10 days out.
And then he talked about
he was uptight through the
business
whole
trips
thing.
And guys just being focused. And then Rodgers completely contradicts him by saying, I want to go to a pub.
Right. Well, here's the other thing, too. Those coaches also started watching how the Giants were playing those first 2 or 3 weeks,
Yeah.
with that new coaching staff. And they knew that they had their hands full. They knew that these guys were going to be, the Giants were going to be a tough out.
We are broadcasting live down here at Angry Brothers Pub. We're in Racine, which is where you can find us. We are brought to you by our friends at Bud Light. We got a lot more. Mike Clemens, myself, another hour and 15 to go. Stay tuned. We'll be back after this.
This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back to the program. We are at Angry Brothers Pub. We're in Racine. We are glad to have you. Thanks so much for coming out tonight and watching us on the Bud Light live stream. Thanks to those of you that are taking a listen to us all throughout the great state of Wisconsin and all our network affiliate stations. Myself, Mike Clemens, alongside here this evening. And I want to go back, Mike. We were talking about the defense a little bit earlier. I want to talk a little bit about the linebacking core because Devondre Campbell obviously has been down and now he has come back. Quay Walker is a tackler, but if he has to get off of a block via offensive lineman, he has struggled this season. He has been somewhat hit or miss. Obviously, Preston Smith, somewhat of a down year. Rashawn Gary down with the ACL injury. Kingsley Ngabari has played admirably. But let's start with that linebacking core because, I still think that they lack that big body or two up front to help Kenny Clark out. They don't. Devontae Wyatt's getting more snaps, which I like to see, and he has had some progression. You can see visible progression. They brought in Jerron Reed, who's graded out pretty well. Dean Lowry's still, to me, just a guy, but it seems like everybody has underperformed statistically this season from where they were only a year or even 2 years ago.
Well, Quay Walker is learning.
Yes.
But he's a great athlete, and he's fast. And I thought Bill Huber from Sports Illustrated on the Bill Michaels show earlier today made some good points about, let's remember something, that even that you were missing Zadarius Smith all year with the back injury, and then Jair went down week 5 with his shoulder injury, that you could start to see that defense trail off. Remember the game where they went against the Ravens and Lamar Jackson was out and Hundley, the backup quarterback, almost beat you.
Yeah.
And then, that's like the Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams show, and Mason Crosby to get you over the hump. But the defense was starting to disappoint in November and December of last year. Then they somehow got some guys back on the field and they got it together for the 49ers, but then your offense couldn't work and the special teams lost it for you. I'm satisfied still with what you're getting out of Quay Walker. You got Devondre Campbell back on the field after giving the big contract, but he missed, he had a bruised knee that cost him about a month of games. He had 11 combined tackles the other night. On the outside, though, after losing Rashawn Gary on a non-contact injury on that turf at Ford Field, it's Preston Smith. And then, now you're down to JJ Enagbare, and number 55, a rookie, was a fourth.
JJ, I called him Kingsley. I'm bad.
No, that's his nickname is JJ.
Yeah.
His real first name is Kingsley. Did anybody notice he left the game with a leg injury? I mean, when it's a clutch time and you're in a close game with the Chicago Bears and you got David Montgomery out there and you got Justin Fields, I was like, 47's out there. Justin Hollins, who they just picked up off the street from the 3-9 Rams, is out there as your other outside linebacker with Preston. I mean, that's Joe Barry's got to put up his hand and say, give me a break.
Right.
The Rams got rid of this guy. They're 3-9, and this is my other guy on the outside. I had him for 2 weeks. So that's an interesting thing that is not getting reported much. And what kind of condition Enagbare is going to be in coming back from next week? That will be interesting when you go up against that very same Rams team.
The linebacking core, while it hasn't performed great, just it's so interesting because Savage has fallen off. Amos, he's always been that steady hand, that center fielder back there, but his performance has been down somewhat. Jair, like you said, he's freelance. Stokes was supposed to be, because coming off of last season, you thought between him and Jair, man, this is going to be an incredible secondary. And then he gets hurt. He wasn't playing great when he went down. Rasul Douglas, who it was so impressive with 6 picks last year at the end of the season, has not been that pick machine that you saw. And
last year it was Rasul Douglas and his instinct and his film study that got him 4 or 5 picks. This year, it's guys like Keyshawn Nixon and Rudy Ford, cast-offs, teams like the Raiders, Jaguars, and other teams like that. Now they're playing with the instinct, and they're making the games. They're throwing the daggers in these games. But that Enikbare thing, man, I was watching him on the sideline for the last 7 or 8 minutes of the game, and he's got some kind of a serious leg thing that was going on, and that's a pretty depleted crowd. I mean, you've got to be stronger. And I brought this point over this point up time and time again about Jonathan Garvin was really who they thought they could replace Darius Smith with. And there's been times where he's been a healthy scratch. So if you don't have 2 edge guys, what are the 2 most important positions on defense? Corner, and the pass rush
and
guy.
Usually a pass rusher and or a powerful middle linebacker. But other than that, yeah, I agree with you.
Right?
Remember when Dom Capers went to Ted Thompson and said, I need up the gut. Give me center field. Give me a strong nose tackle. Give me a strong linebacker. Give me a strong safety. And I need 1 cover corner. I'll make the rest work.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
And then they did it obviously with a pass rusher and Clay Matthews at the time, but I completely agree. We'll talk a little bit more about the second half of this program. We'll talk a little bit more about the want and or need to see Jordan Love, because that's the other area of discussion for a lot of Packers fans as to whether or not he has to play, should he play. We talked with Mark Schofield today of SB Nation, who said, if you're another team talking about this guy, thinking about this guy, you'd probably want to see if he can play. But I think one thing that Brian Gutekunst said that stood out to me, and I think it's oh so true, not only for the Packers, but for other teams as well. We'll talk about that when we come back in regards to Jordan Love. Stay tuned. Stay tuned. Going to go ahead and take a quick break. We're going to come back broadcasting live at Angry Brothers Pub. This is a pub, but this is a restaurant. This is a fantastic place to eat. It's an entertainment center, really. The bowling alley is just a part of it. They've got so much. They've got the golf simulators. They've got things in the back for catering and banquets. They've got obviously the bar here, 500 screens. I don't know how many screens, but they got screens everywhere, for God's sakes. Come on out and say hello. We're down here another hour. Bud Light specials all night. We're brought to you by Bud Light. We'll be back right after this.
About the tape.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, Wisconsin has its new offensive coordinator. According to the Athletics' Bruce Feldman, the Badgers bringing in North Carolina offensive coordinator Phil Longo to serve in that same role in Luke Fickell's staff. Longo's been the OC with the Tar Heels for 4 years. They finished in the top 15 in the country in total offense in all 4 seasons, averaged 36.2 points per game in that time. Longo's offense uses the quarterback in the run game a bunch, but also has featured a prolific passing attack. The news comes today after Jim Leonard announced he would not be a part of Fickell's staff after the bowl game. Leonard issued a statement on social media last night that said he intends to stay on until after the Guaranteed Rate Bowl, but will not be a part of the staff in 2023. Fickell said discussions with Leonard were positive, but they determined in the end him moving on was the best for all involved. Meanwhile, Badgers have seen a host of players head of the transfer portal in recent days, including quarterback Graham Mertz. They have also targeted several players they could bring to Madison, though Fickell says they have to be smart in that regard. One guy Fickell isn't losing, running back Braylon Allen. He announced yesterday he's staying at Wisconsin for his junior season. Turning to the Packers, they're getting the week off. They'll return the following Monday night when they host the Rams at Lambeau Field.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
When a company only does business in Wisconsin, that's Wisconsin Strong. Rural Mutual provides all lines of insurance, including commercial, farm, home, and auto. And your premiums stay right here to keep Wisconsin strong. Local agents, local underwriters, local claims adjusters.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Well, the Bucks are back in action tonight as Sacramento comes to town. Milwaukee's found its footing of late, winning 5 of the last 6 games. Kings have won 3 straight coming in. Tip at Fiserv Forum is set for 7. And Wisconsin 1-0 in Big Ten play after the win against Maryland last night. They'll travel to Iowa this Sunday. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil.
Are you ready for some football? He talks green and gold. Look at the 8. This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels.
Welcome back. We are glad to have you. Hour number 2 of the Bill Michaels Huddle. We are broadcasting live here at Angry Brothers Pub. We're in Racine, terrific place, an entertainment venue. It's not just the bowling alley. It's not just the bar. It's not just a catering complex. It's not just golf simulators. It's not outdoor volleyball courts or big giant patios. It is everything, all combined into one, along with terrific food. Mike Clemens alongside, who Mike is imbibed a little bit in the beverages, and he's also claimed that giant piece of steak. He's going to probably ride the rest home, not eat it all, but carve it up, and whatever you don't eat, I'm sure it's probably going to find itself a saddle and you on the back of it. But which was huge, which was fantastic.
It's not a doggy bag; it's a Mikey bag.
There you go.
Taking this one.
Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. I can see where you're going with it. Speaking of not a doggy bag, but the backup quarterback. Good segue. That's the reason we're radio. Mm-hmm. The backup quarterback to the Packers. It seems like there's a lot of people that really want to see what Jordan Love, ever since he played those 2 series against Philadelphia, what he's got. And one of the things that I found so interesting on Monday was when Brian Gutekunst said that he was asked, well, you know what you have in him, right? And he said, yeah, we know what we have in him. We know what he can do. We've watched his maturity and growth. He went through all the attributes. And then he paused and he said, but we want to see if he can win. And he talked about winning. And he talked about, a quarterback that can win. You got to be able to win. And he said, we want to win every game. So it's not about hoping they lose so they can play Jordan Love. But he says, we want to win. We got to see what he can do and if he can win.
And 2 quarterbacks that have discovered this year that have got 7 to 10 years experience in the NFL carrying clipboards is Taylor Heineke.
Yep.
With Ron Rivera,
right.
Good coach that's turned around the Commanders, made them respectable.
And out in Seattle,
Geno Smith.
Yeah, Geno Smith is probably going to win comeback player of the year.
And all of a sudden, Pete Carroll and John Schneider, the former Green Bay guy, the GM out there, Russell, you're not happy?
Talk to you later.
Yeah, go ahead. Because we're going to get a guy that's going to run the offense and stay on schedule and is darn accurate with the football.
Mm-hmm.
And, Seattle is turning, they're doing a lot better than the Broncos are.
Oh, God, yeah.
That's for sure.
The Russell Wilson has been a Nathaniel Hackett head coach killer because Nathaniel Hackett's not going to last after this season.
Maybe not.
They paid Russell Wilson way too much. That offense looks horrific. He's only thrown 8 touchdown passes this year.
Well, Russell was creating those problems in Seattle.
Right.
Really, I mean, in his style of play. It's like bad on 1st and 2nd down, and then maybe it pull out a miracle on 3rd down. And sometimes he could, sometimes he couldn't. And, and then, of course, their defense started getting old and they need to replace there. But, Bill, in November, I just kind of got a sense with Rodgers and the thumb injury that we might be seeing some more Jordan Love here coming up here quick than I think. And I was also concerned if the Bills really blew out the Packers, that you might see some Jordan Love time. So let me talk about Jordan from the standpoint of he comes in, 1st-round pick. He's done a couple of press conferences. They put him on Zoom once or twice when we were kept out of the locker room during the pandemic. But, Jordan's answers have been very short and sweet. You've not heard Jordan Love a peep out of this guy, right?
Right.
And for almost 2 years, as a reporter, we didn't really get a chance to be face-to-face with him and get to know him and build a relationship. So on a Friday, in late November, just before he was going to turn 24, I caught him in a good mood and whatever, because it's like, my gosh, this guy's the heir apparent. I really don't know anything about him. There hasn't been moments to just sort of hang out and get to know the kid and see where his head is at. And I found in digging out here, he grows up in Bakersfield, California, which is a very nice town, about an hour inland from LA. It's got a bunch of those old Spanish buildings in it.
Mm-hmm.
His father, Orrin, everybody knew Orrin Love, Orin in Bakersfield, California.
Right.
26 years as a sergeant on the police force. Community leader for youth sports programs. Jordan's dad was built like a defensive end. Great big dude, like
Right.
6'6", and maybe 280 or so. So, and Love, Mr. Love, Sergeant
Right.
Love, known all around town. And so he kind of pushes Jordan to be a pitcher and a quarterback because Orrin played for the high school team, and he always wanted to play that quarter, but they kept on putting him in the line and all that. So Jordan and Orrin were they were buds, going out to the Little League, going to the games, going out for the ice cream, etc. Orrin got to have some heart problems. These prescription drugs that they say, any suicidal thoughts, call your doctor immediately.
Right.
That's what happened. He started taking this medication. His wife, very close and in tune, started noticing her husband, a 26-year sergeant on the police force, started acting weird. It's kind of driving weird and saying strange things.
Yeah.
To the point where, Bill, after about a month, she was trying to get him back into the doctor, say, this isn't right. Something's not, and he was having a hard time sleeping, and is up and down and everything. But taking this new heart medication, she took his service revolver and put it in the lockbox and locked it up. She didn't know that he had his own key to it. And on a Saturday morning, when Jordan was 14 years old and going to go play in the freshman year, basketball game, his dad took him to it, and he noticed it was kind of weird. He drove up on the curb instead of just, dropping the son off. And the other thing is that, his dad always came to the games, but the dad said, I left something in the house. I got to go back. So he drops him off at the Saturday morning basketball game. Jordan plays in the game. When he gets done, where's dad? Why isn't he in the stands? And his aunt, Anna, picks him up. And then he notices, why aren't we going home? She took him to her house. And that's in the drive where he says, your father just shot himself about an hour ago.
Yeah.
He sat on the edge of the bed of the master bedroom. He had that second key, pulls it out. He was lost from this medication, just uncontrollable.
Yeah.
And took his own life, like at 51 years old. That's what Jordan Love has had to deal with at age 14, losing his mentor and a guy that he loves so much and helped him. So I kind of picked up the story from there and talking about that he met a kid that was in his high school named Chris Barnes. Yeah, that number 51. Right. So here, Jordan Love, they take their team to state. Chris Barnes gets scholarship offers to UCLA. Jordan Love ends up going to, Utah State. And so Jordan picked up the story from there with me.
Yeah. So freshman year of high school, I was 5'6", 175 pounds. And then, or not even 175 pounds. I was like 130 pounds. But then, I hit a growth spurt. Was like, I think to my junior year, I was 6'2". That's when I really got to 6'2". But no, freshman year, I was the backup quarterback. My sophomore year, I played quarterback. And then going to my junior year, that's when, there's an older guy in front of me who won the job. And then after 2 games in the season, he wasn't getting the job done. They put me in and just never looked back after that. So,
did you play defense?
My freshman year I did, and then after that I kind of shut it down. I was playing quarterback, and but when I was back up, I was trying to do whatever I can to get on the field. So,
was there a sense junior year, senior year, like I'm doing this for college, I'm doing this for scouts?
Probably not until after my junior season when I was like, okay, football. Because before that I was backup, so I was thinking maybe basketball, different things, but I didn't really think much of football. Then after my junior season, I had a good year, and then offers, schools started coming to talk to me, and I was like, okay, football is going to be what takes me to college. So,
was Chris Barnes a linebacker?
Yeah, he was a linebacker. At the same high school, and obviously Chris was, doing his thing. He was a lot better. He had a lot of looks, a lot of offers in high school. So we all knew Chris he's going D1 doing his thing, but
and you guys did well, right?
We did well. We had a really good team in high school. Went to Valley Championship, ended up going to state championship our senior year and lost, but we had a good team.
Were you guys close in high school?
Oh yeah, we were real close. That's my guy. We've been really close since really elementary school, into elementary school, going into middle school. We've been really close.
What's part of the bond? The movies, video games, music? What?
No, we do a lot. We just hang out. We'll play video games together. We'll go watch movies together. Especially out here, really anything we could do, we'll see what each other are doing and just try and do it together. But yeah, no, I mean, we've been doing the same stuff since high school is, more like let's go to movies, do stuff after school, things like that.
Work out.
Yeah, work out, all that stuff. We trained together. We played 7-on-7 in the summers together. Like we did a lot of stuff together and with a couple of our teammates in high school. But we've had a close bond.
He flat out earned that spot in camp that year at linebacker, and it's so unfortunate with the ankle that he had. Was that against the Vikings this year? But I mean, he earned that. It's not because of any association with you, right?
No, he earned that spot 100%. Obviously, our rookie year, there was some things that happened with linebackers, and it was really next man up for him as well, and he made the most of that opportunity. Was really a guy that stepped up and for the defense and was able to play that number 2 backer spot. And I think he made a name for himself that year and, continue on to the next year. And now obviously, we have Quay and different things like that. And he's just still trying to earn it.
So he goes to UCLA, but you make a name at Utah State, great junior year. And then everybody's talking about you nationally. I mean, that's a pretty funny competition going between the two of you, right?
Yeah, no, it was. Obviously, Chris had all the offers, things like that in high school. And then, went to Utah State and I was doing my thing and started getting the looks, but, he had his looks as well. And then, draft night, he was at my house, for the draft and, doing his thing and trying to figure out what was going to be his situation. And, he got the call that, the Packers wanted him to, come out of camp and things like that, sign as a free agent. And I was like, man, that's crazy. We both go to the Packers. So, it just worked out.
There you go. That's Jordan Love with Mike Clemens. So it's a story you can root for. You hope for the guy. I didn't see anything dynamic coming out of college that's going to make me go wow. But he did look better, markedly better, in the game in the 2 series that we saw him play against Philadelphia. A very accurate arm.
But trust me,
had zip on the ball and everything.
Ryan Goodikins is like, hey, this Chris Barnes kid. Oh, they went to the same high school. Oh, they're friends, and gave him every opportunity. And, Barnes earned that job from the back of the line as an undrafted player to start as a middle linebacker year before, against the Vikings. He's had these ups and downs with these injuries that these linebackers take, but at least just to get Jordan Love settled in Green Bay and have somebody he's known since he was 14 years old to be his buddy there, while he's waiting for his turn. That's smart personnel management. Yeah. And I can tell you there's a whole group in that locker room that can flip the switch to their allegiance to Jordan Love. Yeah. They understand who Aaron Rodgers is, but they really can't relate. But there's a whole group of guys, 22, 23, 24 years old, that, the day that Aaron Rodgers announces, I'm retiring from football, they're already in there to play for Jordan Love. And I know that for a fact from a couple of things I've heard, Yeah. When it's Jordan's time.
Right. Now, the question is, and Favre went through this, where Favre started to look around and realize he had no relatability to a lot of the guys in that locker room, the majority of them. Does Rodgers still have relatability? Or is it go let Cobby coach him up? I'm fine. I'm going to go do my own thing.
No, I asked Rodgers directly during training camp. Here we are 2 weeks into training camp, and you're complaining about these young receivers. Don't you think if you'd come to a couple of OTAs, maybe a little bit more at the mini camp, gotten a couple more snaps, that they would have made that much more progress? And he laughed at me like the blank you laugh, right. And he said, listen, what they do in the spring is wide receiver 100. When I come, it's wide receiver 200, okay? They'll show you the technique. They'll show you the basic playbook, the terminology. And then when I get around, then we'll start talking about the adjustments on the field. So it's a waste of my time to come here in the spring. Right. I don't need it. I'll come in shape 110%, which he did.
Yeah.
Which he did.
Yep.
But I don't know. I still think that when you're trying to get guys to play for you, to lay their bodies on the line.
Yeah.
And you're kind of calling them out from time to time, even though you're right. if you're going to be a brother, you're going to be a brother, which means you're here in May and June. We're not reading about your trip to India or whatever the hell, or going to the Zenith clockmaker making $35,000 watches in Switzerland.
Yeah. I've always said it's not about the X's and O's. It's about the relationship and the ability to talk to a guy.
Yeah.
I go back to the days when Rodgers wanted to take over the team and wanted to acclimate himself to everybody. He had the barbecue. Come on over to my house. We're all going to get together. That's where that
May and June's a real good time to get to know John Runyon.
Right? I agree.
Whose dad's NFL.
Yeah.
Or even inspire, a mullet-haired guy like Royce Newman. You never know.
Yeah.
You just never know.
Yeah. Let's do this. We're going to step out, take a quick break, come back. Bottom of the hour, we're going to get into the rest of the NFL. We're going to start making some picks as well. Games coming up. Got one tomorrow night, as a matter of fact. So we're going to start there and then work our way through the rest of the week without the Green Bay Packers participating in a game this weekend, off during the bye week. Stay tuned. We're broadcasting live. We're at Angry Brothers Pub. We're down here in Racine. Good people on hand, even better food, I'll tell you that right damn now. This is a hell of a place. Stop in and say hi. We're brought to you by our friends at Bud Light. Coming up right after this.
This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Good to have you back. Welcome to the program. We're brought to you by our friends at Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the Bill Michaels Sports Talk Network. And we are broadcasting live. We're at Angry Brothers Pub here in Racine, Wisconsin. If you want to swing in, not only when we're here, but any other time for that matter.
You take I-94 in Racine or Kenosha County. You get off on the Highway 20 exit. Head east toward the lake.
Yep.
Just about 4 or 5 miles or so. Past the big quick trip off there on your right-hand side.
Which is massive.
And then you see the big sign for Angry Brothers. You pull in, big-ass bowling alley over here. Beautiful bar. You know, all these giant screens that they've got. Love the lighting. Did you see the hallway with the Packer memorabilia?
I have, yeah.
Outside the little lobby out there. Very nice, friendly people. And a history with the name Angry Brothers. A history with
Do you know the
right?
history?
Well, yeah, but I don't want to get into it. But the owner was telling me about that.
Right.
They're always, they're angry sports fans and that
right.
kind of thing. But yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
No.
But really good food. And everything is in the last year from the last time we were here, because we've been here every year for like the last 7 years, 8 years, something like that. We make it down here once for the program.
Pizza and that other stuff. But tonight they're serving me steak, kind of a filet mignon thing with green beans with the
bacon?
The bacon bits. Oh, man. And then, like a garlic mashed here.
Yeah.
Fresh garlic
mashed.
It
was so good.
Yeah.
It was so good. Yeah, I'm taking every bit of it home in one place, my stomach.
Sir.
Yeah,
yes, sir.
No doubt. I do want to get into a little bit more before we get to the picks, but Brian Gutekunst talked about, winning and culture, and talked about certain guys and decisions he has to make, and then support of Matt Lafleur. And was there anything else in that presser on Monday that struck you?
Yeah. He talks about the fact that he reemphasized some things about his philosophy that he learned from Ron Wolf and Ted Thompson when it comes to the quarterback position and developing these guys to say, you learn the fundamentals, you learn the playbook, we figure out if you're naturally born as a leader, but can you win?
Right.
Can you win a game?
He wanted to see.
Can you win
he
a
talked
game?
about that.
And Justin Fields is like right there.
Yeah.
And even with all the injuries that Justin's got, and he's got a first-year offensive coordinator in the NFL and Luke Getsy and all. But he's got a pretty smart 51-year-old Matt Eberflus, directing the defense and coming up with some pretty good schemes against Aaron Rodgers. I mean, Rodgers had a hard time getting passes completed for 3 quarters. But is there one or two more things that Justin could do? And the fact is, Justin threw one away to the sidelines. It looked like he had an open guy, and Keyshawn Nixon comes flying into the picture and picks it off, right there at the sideline and takes away your chance.
Right.
So, that's the kind of thing that Goody's talking about. Can you win the game in those final 2 minutes?
I thought it was interesting. The one thing that I also kind of snatched onto when he was asked about, the trade deadline and he started to say, well, we started looking at things, and when it got too high versus the reward, we had to walk away.
It's all value. I mean, we're not getting
it's value.
There's all kinds of points and dollar signs on those draft picks. And look at the Rams are doing now. Now they're scrambling trying to get all these. They put in all those draft picks, and
but they got a Super Bowl out of it.
They got a ring. But now they're in a mess.
Right.
And Chase Claypool was a problem for Mike Tomlin. If I'm Goody, I'm not going to give up too much for this guy. And it's not like he's actually, burning it up down there in Chicago. I think that was his best game with it. I think he had 5 receptions the other day, but it wasn't like, and with Darnell Mooney off the field, hell, Fields had nobody else to throw to.
Right.
By the way, another big move was Robert Quinn went to the Eagles, and the Bears like, hey, we'll give up Robert Quinn. And people were just shocked between that and then the Roquan Smith trade to Baltimore. It's like, oh, okay, so you guys are giving up on this season, right?
Right.
And then the Bears actually went out and won a couple of surprise games after that. Robert Quinn just got put on IR. The Bears got the best end of that deal, man.
Right.
Traded away Robert Quinn and getting back some of these Trubisky deals and stuff over the years. And Roquan Smith as well. I mean, the Bears are in pretty good position to turn this thing around in the years to come. So when it comes to Goody being so tight-fisted with those draft picks, I mean, Christian Watson suddenly has turned out. It's not a bust. We saw plenty of flash from Romeo Doubs in training camp, and 8 receptions in one game for a record. tying a Max McGee record from 1954. And my guy Zach Tom. I'm not an expert at this. I'm not a scout and all that. But I watch these practices that when they let us in, I watch every snap that I can, and I try and follow where the coaches are, or I watch where Gutekunst is going, quite frankly, and I'm trying to see what these guys are seeing. So day 2 of camp, I tweet out, man, this number 50 kid, his footwork is great.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying it's the second day of training.
Larrabee said the same thing when I had him on. Wayne said Zach Tom was a guy to watch. Sean Ryan was.
That's because I told him.
Yeah, is that what it was? Okay,
Yeah.
because I know you guys go to lunch
I told him.
and share pizzas and stuff.
I
like
said,
that.
look at 50, man.
Yeah,
Look at it. And because you know what? The last time I saw footwork like that was 9 or 10 years ago when this kid from Colorado was out there one-on-ones, and Clay Matthews, the third time he tried to get around him, took his helmet and threw it in frustration because this kid with the name you couldn't pronounce, Bakhtiari, couldn't get around him.
Right. Yeah.
And that's now Zach Tom doesn't have that size, but the footwork is outstanding. He's smart. He's very humble and very low key. But look at him. No one talked about him in that game on the Bears. You know why? Because he's pretty darn good.
Yeah.
He's pretty darn good. You've got 2 left tackles, and you still got Josh Nijman on the other side.
I kind of thought.
So everyone's screaming about Gutekunst. Like, there's a lot of good things going on here.
I kind of 2017, 2018 drafts, you got 4 guys left out of a total of those 2 drafts sucked. So
this thing
depth
about
pool is
hey,
not
this year
great
we're going to
because
take
of that.
3 receivers, and the next year is hey, we're going to take 3 running backs.
Right.
And if 1 or 2 of them work out, the problem with that is you lose all your receivers 1 year, and then the next year you lose all your running backs.
Right.
Just in terms of who's you're going to renew
Gonna
or
keep
not.
and you're not. Yeah.
You got to take a receiver and a back. A receiver and a back. You got to stagger those picks so that you don't lose the whole room some year.
The one thing that I took away from his conversation regarding the value, and he kind of hedged and he started to say something and he held it back. It was almost like I thought the way I'm watching him, his facial, his body, I don't think Ron, he's a disciple of Ron, who was Ted was a disciple of Ron's. Ron had always told me, if you believe you're a player away, you pull the trigger at all costs.
Sure.
Otherwise, you don't. And I kind of went, he never thought this team could win a championship. The way they were playing, what was going on. Yeah, if they were a Chase Claypool away from winning, but he didn't see it that way.
Well, he kept Mason Crosby. Mason Crosby. And then Mason ends up, of all things, having a sore knee during minicamp. And then before the start of training camp, they say, all right, we probably need to scope that out.
Mason's length is good, or Mason's accuracy is good. It's just anything over 50, that's not the guy.
Yeah, and the kickoffs are starting to come up a little short.
Yep.
You're gonna have to keep an eye on that. But the other thing that was important for Brian Gutekunst was this, and the question was, Bill, what's the structure here now if Matt needs to make a change at coaching? And Gutekunst said, Murph, he called him Murph. He called his boss Murph. Brian Gutekunst reiterated, Mark Murphy's in charge.
Murph, Russ, and I.
Russ Ball, the finance guy, who wanted that GM job and was really ticked off that Gutekunst got it. Russ Ball thought he should have that job, okay? So what they did was, Murphy said, look, I'm in charge now. Russ, you don't necessarily report to Brian. The head coach, the general manager is in charge of the roster, the guy's in charge of the contracts. The 3 of you need to work together, and you all report to me, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And that's been that structure since they got rid of McCarthy, going on 4 years now. But the bottom line is this. At the end of the day, Matt Lafleur will decide whether or not Joe Barry is the next, continues as defensive coordinator. But when it comes
Stanovich is an offensive coordinator.
But when it comes to, and that's, we haven't even touched on that, how he's done as a first-year offensive coordinator. But because you know what? LaFleur keeps on talking about this Connor Davis assistant that's upstairs helping him manage the games. He knows the rule book.
Yeah.
He's determining whether there should be a challenge. He's watching the replays, all those kinds of things. Keep your eye on that dude.
Right.
But what's going on right now is this. The general manager, Gutekunst, confirmed that at the end of the day, Matt LaFleur decides who's on his coaching staff. But it's also true that if he says, man, I got to have Rich Bisaccia like a year ago, and as bad as special teams in, then Russ Ball and Mark Murphy have to agree to open up the purse strings and say, all right, we'll throw another $1 million or $2 million on the fire
Right.
to get a Vic Fangio in here.
Right.
You know, and that they're going to have to make a case that we've got that, you know, does Gutekunst have a roster really worth that? Or do we have the money for that? But that's the way this works. Okay, you know, this is going to cost us more, but if you can really make the case that this is the guy that you need, because if it doesn't work, it's going to cost you your
Right,
job someday, Lafleur. But that's the way the structure is. It's not like Gutekunst has got making this call, and ultimately it's not Mark Murphy that's deciding who's the defensive coordinator. It's up to Lafleur to decide who's on that coaching staff.
Well, he doesn't want to wrap his arms around the boat anchor that is Joe Barry. That's
not at
for
this
damn sure.
time.
No, not
nice guy though.
Joe Barry's a nice guy. You know, I wouldn't hit him in the parking lot with my car. He's a nice guy.
I know. So, according to social media, I know some Packer fans that would.
That would, absolutely. We're down at Angry
and maybe
Brothers.
an outside linebacker
right?
too, but I won't get into that.
We're in Racine. We're going to step away, take a quick break. The rest of the NFL begins playing tomorrow night. Stay tuned. We got a whole lot more of the Bill Michaels Huddle right after this.
Let we go. This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute.
Hey.
Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Good to have you back. Welcome. And for those of you watching on the Bud Light live stream on the cameras, we certainly appreciate it. We're here at Angry Brothers Pub. We're down in Racine. So if you're in the area, there's a great place. Bowling alley, entertainment center, simulated golf, TVs everywhere, really good food. So it's not bar food, man. It's so far above that. But stop in and tell them we said hi. And then also, don't forget, we're brought to you by our friends at Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the Bill Michaels Sports Talk Network, and Bud Light specials down here as well. Mike Clemens alongside. So, Mike, it's time to take a look around the rest of the NFL now and start to make our picks. Ben Kenny, producing the program all the way back in Madison, Wisconsin, is going to join us in this segment as well. So you got the Rams, and the Rams, for lack of a better term, suck. You got Matthew Stafford done for the year. They're playing at SoFi at home, where they won a Super Bowl. The Raiders are coming to town, favored by 6.5.
Matt Stafford is a contusion of the spine, right?
Yeah,
That's dangerous.
Yeah,
and McVay said in the presser, I think the season's over. I mean, technically he's on a 4-week IR, but he may be have some serious thoughts about if he wants to continue his career. He got the ring.
He got the ring. Rams, Raiders giving 4 or 6.5 in this contest. I'm taking I hate to say it, I'm taking the Raiders on the road. They're starting to win. They're starting to figure out a few things in Las Vegas. So the Raiders coming in at 5-7, only 2-5 on the road, but the Rams are 2-5 at home. They're 3-9.
So who's going to play quarterback for the Rams?
Aaron Donald is done.
Is he on IR?
So he's had. I
know he's banged up.
Yeah, he's banged up. He's not on IR, but he's banged up. He's not going to be in this one. Their options, they have just picked up Baker Mayfield. Then there's John Wolford, the backup. He was the street free agent that they picked up in 2019. He was drafted.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's Bryce Perkins, who was a undrafted college player back in 2020. But
that's one that
Wolford's banged up.
That's one, the Bryce Perkins. That's the card you pull out of the stack and you put it on the spokes of your Stingray bike.
That's exactly right.
To make noise.
That's exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the guys that you have to choose from. And Baker Mayfield, they picked him up, obviously, hoping he can at least do something. But there's no way I'm going to be able to pick the Rams. I'm taking the Raiders in this one.
And they're playing in LA, right?
In LA.
No, it's got to be the Raiders. Got to be the Raiders.
Ben Kenny?
Oh, I'm expected to do this? No.
Yeah, you're doing it.
I'll take the Raiders big. I kind of feel bad for Kirk Herbstreit that he gets in the NFL, he goes on Prime, and then they just saddle him with every terrible game all season. But I think Devontae goes off, and Baker might start, which is hideous. It's going to be disgusting, but I think the Raiders win.
Then you've got the noon kickoff on CBS coming up on Sunday. Cincinnati taking on the Browns. Cincinnati now 8-4, 4-1 at home. Browns coming to town at 5-7, 2-4 away, but they've got Deshaun Watson. Cincinnati is favored by 6 in this one. Here's a statistic for you. Joe Burrow has never beaten the Browns.
Really?
Has never beaten the Browns. It is his bugaboo. He cannot get over that hump for whatever reason. And now they've got Deshaun Watson.
Who looked like crap,
Yeah.
Understood his first game
Right.
back and everything.
But I'm going to take the Browns in this one.
going to take the Browns. Cincinnati's given 6. I'm taking the Browns.
The Bengals
to win
are
this one or
6-point
cover.
favorites.
Bengals are 6-point favorites. I'm going to take the Browns to win or cover. But Joe Burrow has never beaten Cleveland.
I'm going to say the Bengal fans make the difference. Cincinnati wins at home over the Browns.
There you go. Ben?
Yes, good pick, Mike. Bill, it is the battle for the walleye fishermen. Remember this, the
Yes.
battle for Ohio? I'm taking the Bengals. I'm picking against the Browns every week.
Okay. You got the Lions at home. The Lions have looked relatively impressive. I said they might get to 8 wins this season. I don't know if they're going to be able to do it. Sitting at 5 right now, though, they have an opportunity. But here comes the Minnesota Vikings, who are 10-2, 4-1 away from US Bank Stadium. The Lions, the Lions are favored by 2.5 in this game. Vegas knows something. And remember, the Lions went toe-to-toe with the Bills on Thanksgiving Day. Vegas knows something. I'm taking the Lions at home.
I think it's when the Lions played the Vikings maybe the last time these two teams met. It could be part of it. And the way the Lions have played at home.
Yeah.
They scored 30 points a game.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, actually, they did a pretty good job keeping to 15 in that game. The Lions over the Vikings. Yeah, that's sexy. I'll take Dan Campbell and the boys.
Why not? There you go. Ben?
The Motor City Kitties with a win.
Yes, I was taught at a very young age that when you're gambling and it looks like Vegas knows something, you should probably listen. No, I'll take the Lions.
There you go. Then you got Buffalo, the Bills. They're at home taking on the Jets. A good matchup. Buffalo's favored, though, by 9.5 in this one. Josh Allen comes into it with his 25 touchdowns on the season. Stephon Diggs, the receiver of 10 of those. The Jets are good up front. They can get to you, but I just think that the Bills have too much not to win this game. And they are still out with something to prove, and they're 4-1 at home. I've got the Bills at home getting the win. Mike?
Earlier in this show, we were talking about why can't Joe Barry seem to be more of a motivator for this defense?
Like Robert Saleh.
Like Matt LaFleur's best friend,
right?
Who did that with the 49ers and is now doing this with the Jets. And I'll never forget, after the Jets upset the Packers at Lambeau Field, what did Saleh say about his defensive line? Yeah, today they were like a rolling ball of butcher knives.
Butcher knives, yeah.
I mean, that this guy studies that martial arts stuff from 1,000 years ago.
Yeah.
He gets into people's heads. Yeah, but not in Buffalo. I don't see the Jets beating the Bills in Buffalo. I'll take the Bills in a closer game than what Vegas thinks.
Oh, the Mike White story is fun. I think he attempted like 60 passes in Minnesota last week
and
then came up short on the goal line.
That offense is playing for him.
Oh, yeah. Especially the rookie, Wilson from Ohio State. I think the Bills win easily, but I like the Jets story, and I want them to win, and then we can look back at that Vikings game and wonder how the Vikings keep pulling things out of their behind.
Right.
You know what I mean?
No doubt. You got the battle for Texas. The Cowboys at home at 9-3, and they're starting to feel it. CeeDee Lamb, 6 touchdowns on the season. But then again, here come the Texans. Texans benching their quarterback, and things are horrifically wrong. And they just got beat at home by the return of Deshaun Watson. They're not going to do anything on the road. Dallas favored in this one, by the way, by 16.5. I'm not taking the Cowboys to cover, but I'm taking the Cowboys to win.
Yeah, the Texans have just got one win. They've got a really cool draft pick coming up, and they don't want to blow that.
Right.
Cowboys will win.
Mike or Ben?
Bill, you know I'm anti-Houston, and you also know I'm anti-Dallas, so this is a tough one. 16.5 is disgustingly large, so I think the Texans will cover. I think the Cowboys will win. As I said on the show this week, though, I'm not in on the Cowboys Super Bowl talk that we've seen.
No, I'm not going there just yet. I think what's propelled them to get wins, and also what is one of their biggest Achilles heel, is the same guy. It's Dak Prescott. I really believe that when it's crunch time, I don't trust him. There's times that he just makes boneheaded plays. Then you've also got the Jaguars. They are on the road taking on Tennessee. Tennessee beaten, and Derrick Henry held last week against the Eagles only to 30 yards. The Jaguars come in at 4-1. A little bit of momentum, but not much. Titans, they're at home. They're angry. They feel like they should have played better against Philadelphia. Tennessee's given 4 in this game. I think not only do they win, but I think they cover in this game.
You guys would love Doug Peterson. He's so
I
cool.
love Doug Peterson.
He's so approachable.
Oh, I do, Mike. You know.
Yeah. No. I mean, he's just the best. I mean, half the time I find myself pulling for him in a there. Yeah, but I don't see the Jaguars pulling that one.
Bill, I've picked the Jaguars every week, and it hasn't gone well. They're my darlings. I'm going to pick them again. And Mike, yes, Doug Peterson, the only one to bring a backup quarterback to a Super Bowl. Must be noted.
Then you've got the Eagles on the road taking on the Giants in the Meadowlands. Philadelphia 7-point favorites going into MetLife Stadium in this one. Jalen Hurts 20 throwing touchdowns on the season. He's thrown for just under 3,000 yards already. But then again, Saquon Barkley, I mean, early on, he was the story. He was the guy that was getting it all done, 8 touchdowns, over 1,000 yards. But teams have been able to just say, hey, take him out of the game or at least control him, and you're going to win. And that's what teams have been doing. And now the Eagles run defense after holding Derrick Henry to only 30 yards. You know they're going to be keying on Saquon Barkley. I'm going to take the Eagles and the Eagles to cover going into MetLife Stadium. It's the beginning of the end of the Giants. Everybody thought they were a paper champion to begin with, and I say the Eagles are going to prove it this weekend.
Giants at home in MetLife, but they've had these injuries on defense too. So, Eagles fly, man. They are rolling. They are rolling right now.
And you look at the New York fans; they're a little off the hangover of re-signing Aaron Judge.
Yes.
So you wonder what the turnout will be on Sunday. The Eagles win.
Let's do this.
9 years? Are you kidding me? 9 years? How old is he?
$360 million. 9 years. He'll be 40 by the time that contract comes.
The Yankees are nuts. They're nuts.
Well, they've got that kind of money, that kind of coin. We're going to come back at the second half of the lineup. We're broadcasting live at Angry Brothers Pub. We're in Racine. Brought to you by our friends at Bud Light. Picking the NFL games. Ben, Kenny, myself, Mike Clemens alongside. We'll be back to wrap things up next.
Let we go. This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Good to have you back. We're broadcasting live. We're the Angry Brothers Pub. We're in Racine, and thanks for swinging by and saying hi. We just had a really nice lady that came by and said that used to watch me when I did the post-game show at Curly's, and we used to do the Lodge Kohler kickoff. As a matter of fact, she had a picture of myself and Aaron Jones mom when we did the Lodge Kohler kickoff up in Lodge Kohler.
Pre-pandemic.
Yeah, pre-pandemic. And then obviously her son lives down here in Racine. She's like, she heard the show earlier today, and she said, we got to stop by.
Oh, how nice.
So came by and said hello. So I always appreciate that when people kind of follow us around.
Yes,
That's
sir.
awesome. Back at it, the NFL. We continue the second half of the schedule. This used to be a bloodbath between the Ravens and the Steelers in the AFC North. The Steelers obviously have fallen on hard times, but with Lamar Jackson having the issues with the knee and the ankle, Pittsburgh actually favored by 2.5 in this game, playing at home at Acrisure Stadium, which I still can't get used to saying that after being Heinz for so long. Steelers at home, Ravens banged up. I'm taking Mike Tomlin and the Steelers in a little bit of a mild upset in this one.
Although Roquan Smith was looking pretty good in some Ravens game I saw over the weekend.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll take the Steelers. I'll take the Steelers at home.
Ben?
I'm going to lead Corso, not so fast, both of you. I'll take the Ravens. I'm not a Kenny Pickett guy. Never have been.
Okay, so you can take that big Ravens head off now. Okay?
Yeah.
There at the desk.
And he's got that pencil in his hand, too, where he looks like he's going to snap it with his thumb at any second now. You've got the Chiefs on the road, Patrick Mahomes and company, 9.5-point favorites going into face at Empower Field. Another just garbage name. Taking on the Broncos and all the problems they have. Look, Patrick Mahomes, 30-plus touchdowns. He's probably going to end up with 34 by the time the game's over. Broncos suck. Chiefs rule. I'm going with the Chiefs to win and dominate in this fashion.
I was just thinking about this today in terms of what Lafleur is going to try and do with Rodgers or Love, or if he even gets to that point, as a head coach of the Packers, despite the tremendous winning percentage he's had. But that combination between Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, man, that's as good as what Belichick would have had with Brady right now. I mean, who knows where the ceiling is on how many rings that these guys can win together. Certainly the Chiefs would be favored to win in that game.
Ben?
I think Russell Wilson could be a little invigorated by Wisconsin's move at offensive coordinator, bringing in an air raid guy to really shake things up. So I think the Broncos can keep it close, but the Chiefs will still win.
Are you got like mushrooms in your shake right now? Or what?
Mike doesn't listen on Wednesdays, I guess.
I'll tell you this. It is Brock Purdy time as the Brock Purdy, which some people you say, what? In case you weren't paying attention, Brock Purdy, the new quarterback of the 49ers after taking over with
he was
Garoppolo.
like 25 of 37. He did pretty good.
He played
for
excellent.
Third-string quarterback, man.
And the 49ers at 8-4, 5-1 at home, taking on Tom Brady, who just cardiac kid the Buccaneers to a win the other night on Monday night against the Saints. I still think the Buccaneers are trying to search here, but San Francisco's 3.5-point favorites. I'm going with Brock Purdy to win this game.
I'm taking the 49ers defense.
49ers defense. There you go. Ben?
Oh, not so fast. I'm taking the Bucs. The Niners drafted Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant from Iowa State. They took him instead of Jack Cohn, and for that reason, I'm taking the Bucs.
He's just pissed. Yeah. The Panthers at
Wisconsin.
Yeah, Panthers at 4-8 on the season. They jettison Baker Mayfield. The Seahawks at home. We were just talking about that. 7-5. Seahawks.
They got Sam Darnold.
Yeah,
I can't blame them.
I think the Seahawks are going to win the game. But this is a game where you're rooting against the Seahawks because if the Seahawks lose, it benefits the Green Bay Packers.
Oh, really?
Chances. Yeah. So you're looking for the Seahawks to lose. So I'm still, I hate to do it, but I'm going to take the Seahawks to get the win. They're favored by 3.5 against the Panthers.
Yeah, Seahawks win.
There you go.
I agree. The North Carolina offensive coordinator came to Wisconsin, and the state of Carolina is reeling. Seahawks win.
There you go. This is a decent game. The Dolphins on the road, a long East Coast, West Coast trip yet again for them. Second time in 3 weeks. Dolphins 8-4. They are favored by 3, taking on Justin Herbert and the Chargers. A really weird down year. 20 touchdowns on the season for him, but it's been a very quiet, very down year for him. Miami's favored by 3. I'll take 2 in company to win on the road in San Diego.
I think it's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be a great game.
It's a Sunday night game.
Yeah, and Mike Daniels is a really interesting guy at head coach. I'll take the Dolphins.
Oh, this is a terrific jersey matchup, first and foremost. That's going to look good on television. I love Justin Herbert. Everyone loves Justin Herbert. I would like to know when he's going to start consistently winning games. Like, it always feels like the Chargers are underwhelming a bit, and obviously he hasn't been to the playoffs yet. So I'll take the Dolphins.
Got 1 minute, and you got the Patriots on the road Monday night taking on the Cardinals. The 4-8 Arizona Cardinals. Patriots sitting at 6-3. Kyler Murray with a total of 14 touchdowns on the season. All the whining and bitching and moaning he did in the offseason, he has played a craptastic year. And I just for that purpose, I hope the Patriots win. I'm taking the Patriots, who are giving 1.5 in this contest. Patriots going to win on the road.
I'm taking the Belichicks.
I will agree.
Ben agrees. There you go.
Reluctantly.
That's our picks. Around the entire, by the way, the bye week this week, Falcons, Bears, Packers, Colts, Saints, and Commanders. That's the teams that are not in action this week. And Mike, this was fun, man. I wish we had bye weeks every week now.
Well, yeah. I mean, either that, we see if we can meet halfway on the road between Green Bay and Madison and Milwaukee.
Got to do it at Sheboygan
like
every week. Yeah,
right,
that wouldn't be a bad way to go. Hey, thanks to the staff and management down here at Angry Brothers Pub. Absolutely fantastic place. We love this place every time we get a chance to come down.
And the listeners, too.
And the listeners that came by to say hello. We are so glad that they did. As you're sitting there and you're kind of sitting at home, you're watching, that's Angry Brothers Pub. You can kind of take a look around the place now and see it. Mike, pleasure as always, pal. Ben, Kenny pushing all the right buttons and keeping us on the air and crazy-ass picks. I love you like a third cousin. And that'll do it. Until we talk again, we'll be back at it again tomorrow morning. No Green and Gold postgame show on Sunday, and then after that, back at it on Monday for a full week in preparation of the Packers and the Rams. But thanks to everybody for coming out. Thanks to our sponsor, Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the Bill Michaels Sports Talk Network. Time for us to go. Have a